Hi, friends. First of all, today is my birthday, so happy birthday to me. This last year has aged me like 100 years, so I'm about 400 years old now. I am this shark. Anyway, this week we're finally going to get to a project that I've had planned for a long time. So I got this kit, I think last Christmas, and not only is it adorable, but I'm wondering if I can reverse engineer it and make my own. But first, let's take a look at this kit. So this is a Latchhook kit, but not one of those ones that just makes a rug. This one makes a soft and cuddly pillow. This is by the brand Play Monster. I swear I've done a kit by Play Monster before. Okay, inside we've got all of the yarn already falling out. More yarn, more yarn. There's the face pieces, the Latchhook tool, some felt, and... okay, that's not what I expected. So the pillow is actually a zippered pouch with the color-coded canvas on one side and like a felty flannel fabric on the other side. Then I guess I just push in the stuffing and zip it shut. Alright, let's get set up. Now, I think I'm going to start at the top and just work my way across from left to right, like I'm reading the cross-stitch canvas. I have done Latchhook before when I was a kid, so let's see if I remember how to do this. Okay, wait. Oh, okay, got it. So I fold the yarn in half around the hook, then slide the hook into one hole and up out of the hole above until the little flapper piece comes out. I wrap the yarn up so it goes underneath the loop of the hook, and then pull the hook down so the flapper comes up and catches the yarn. Then I pull it all the way through. Then I'll just keep working across and down. And flip up all of the little yarn pieces so he has a little flat top. The instructions said some crafters like to clip the top of the canvas to a work surface, so I'm going to find a clipboard to secure this too. Using the clipboard did really help to keep the canvas from sliding around and made it a lot easier to work quickly. So I did eventually add clothespins to the sides to keep it even more secure. One problem that I kept running into was that I would accidentally pull the yarn from an already done loop down through the knot in the loop I was working on. So I tried to put a rubber band around the clipboard to keep the yarn up and out of the way, and that didn't really do much. But eventually I just sort of naturally got more efficient and I guess more skilled with the hand motions, and I didn't accidentally catch the wrong yarns when I was hooking. The instructions also say that when a square has more than one color on it, you just choose the color that you see the most of. And I was kind of worried that it wouldn't come out looking right, but it actually ended up just fine. So instructions 1, row 0. I swear these strands of yarn are smaller than I remember the last time I did Latchhook. But it's also quite possible that I actually just had smaller hands. Like, you know when you remember something from when you were a kid and it was huge, but then you see it as an adult and you're like, oh wow, that was actually tiny. Also, for filming purposes, I had to do this whole strawberry canvas in one sitting, and while it only took about 5 hours total, which isn't bad for a project, I definitely recommend taking breaks. My hands were hurting. But it's worth it because this is so cute. Now that it's done, it has started molting a little bit, and there's some kind of fuzz coming off of it, so I just aggressively rubbed it to get off as much as possible. Then we're going to need to add the eyes and mouth. But first, I'm pushing all of the yarn out of the way. Then I stuck the piece through the canvas and pushed the little backer thing on until it clicked. Now we're going to take all of this stuffing and, stuff it, and then just zip it up. The last thing that we need to do is attach this leaf thing. The instructions said to use any leftover yarn that we had, but I used every single piece because I wanted to fill in the edges. Honestly, I could have even used more. The instructions even said that we could make pom-poms with the leftover yarn. Lies. So instead, I'm going to use some red thread that I already have. I actually think this is for some kind of knitting or something, but I used to use it to make bracelets, and it matches perfectly. So I threaded a needle, tied a giant knot on one end, trimmed it, and then centered the leaf on top of the pouch. I did go through each set of holes twice, just because the thread was pretty thin, but otherwise this was pretty easy to sew on there. Once it was done, I tied another knot, trimmed the thread, and then hooked this little notch through the hole up here. And the pillow is done. You can't really see the mouth that well, and his hat is definitely crooked, but I don't care. I love him. Now I want to try to make my own pillow, and I have a little bit of an idea on how to do that. So first, I'm going to make a pattern. And I'm using this old piece of bulletin board paper that I used to use as a background. And I want to make a big circle. I don't trust my circle drawing skills even a tiny bit, so I'm going to trace it, obviously. The biggest circle that I could find to trace was this Lazy Susan. I do kind of wish I could have made it even bigger, but we work with what we have. And it is actually about the same size as the strawberry pillow. Now, this pillow is going to be a lemon. A pink lemon specifically, because ever since I painted this water bottle, I've wanted to make more pink lemons. I used the other side of the turntable to trace a smaller circle inside, and then I divided that into 2 smaller rings. And I didn't trace that. I can't really tell by looking in my monitor, but to my face, it looks pretty even. Then I need to draw all of the little lemon wedge chunks, and I think that I'm going to do 8. I drew out all of the curvy triangles, and then I tried to get a little fancy and add some shiny spots. There's no rhyme or reason to these, I'm just kind of throwing them on here where I want. I actually, at this stage, don't even know if this design is going to work on a canvas, but we'll see. Next, we need the canvas itself. So apparently there are different sizes of Latchhook canvas, and I really wanted the one called 5 mesh because it has more holes per inch than a 3.75 mesh, which I think is kind of standard. Anyway, all that to say that I got this mesh because it's all I could find locally, and I've kind of been trying to avoid Amazon when I can. So I got this, and I don't even know what size it is. But I'm going to trim this to about 3 squares past the outside of the circle because I plan on sewing this later, so I want some seam allowance. This mesh is really stiff, and it's got some folds in it, so I sprayed it with a little bit of water and stacked a bunch of stuff on top of it. A half hour later, and it seems to have flattened out. Now I need to transfer my design onto it. To do that, I'm going to tape the canvas down onto the design, and then I'm going to use paint markers to essentially color code the canvas like it was for the strawberry pillow. I'm just following the lines that I drew and essentially painting over the canvas. Just kidding, use the wrong color. Bonehead. Like I was saying, I'm just following the outlines exactly and not taking into account where the mesh lines are. I'm assuming that I can just do the same thing that I did with the strawberry and just pick the color for each square based on whichever color is showing the most. I'm going to have the lemon wedges and the outer ring be pink. The connective tissue area is going to be a lighter pink. The highlights will obviously be white. And then this other little ring in here is going to be yellow. Just so that you can actually tell that this is a lemon and not like a pink orange or something. Plus, it's kind of cute that way. Then I took off the tape and touched up a few spots here and there that I somehow missed. Next, I need some yarn. and I might have tremendously overestimated the amount of yarn that I would need. Excuse me? Why are you sending me ads for life insurance, extended warranties, and meal delivery services? Just because I ordered 5,000 pounds of yarn, you think I'm a housebound 90-year-old? Anyway, this amount of yarn is pretty embarrassing. But in my own defense, I didn't want to run out and have to order more, and they listed it by how many strands were in a pack, and I didn't really know exactly how many strands I was going to need, so I erred on the side of, well, not really caution, but more like paranoia. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to make about 7 pillows, but let's just get started. Rather than going straight across like the strawberry pillow, I'm going to work by color from the inside out. Like the shiny highlights first, then the pink wedges, then the in-between areas, etc. I don't really think it matters which direction the yarn goes in, so I'm just going to decide that this way is up. I bought 10 packs of this white color, and I don't even think I'm going to use one whole bag. I'm feeling real dumb right now. This canvas is actually much stiffer than the other one, so I don't think that I actually need to use a clipboard, because this canvas actually seems easier to work with. But I am wondering if it's going to even soften up as I go, or is this going to be like a super annoying pillow? Okay, here's my first speed bump. So see how each side of this center line, the white covers about half of the square? If I do these lines over here, there's not going to be any room for the darker pink on the outline of the wedge part. So I'm only going to do this side and hope that the highlight is still visible. I ran into this same problem a few more times with my design, but I just had to kind of stop and think ahead about where my outlines were going to be and how I could adjust the highlights slightly. I know you're not supposed to, but do you think anyone has ever latch hooked in both directions? Like vertical and horizontal? Is anyone crazy enough to try that? I just wonder if it would make it more full or if it would be a mess. Also, does Latchhook come loose? Like, are all of these pieces gonna fall off eventually? Should I glue the back? I want it to be nice and soft, but I don't want all of my work to fall apart. Okay, now I'm just gonna pop on the lighter pink, and then the yellow. And I'm not sure if you can tell that this is supposed to be a pink citrus fruit at all. Like maybe if you squint really hard. The colors could honestly be better. I was limited to what they had online, and I thought that I picked good colors, but maybe not. Or maybe the website was showing them wrong? Okay, I mean, they do seem pretty accurate, so I guess it was just me. I should have gotten a darker pink for the darkest pink, but oh well. Also, I did read online that supposedly the knots should stay pretty well, but you can also use fabric glue on the back. So I'm going to brush a little bit on. Once it dried, I need to turn this over so that I can sew it, because you sew with the right sides together and the wrong sides out. But I can't really see where my pattern is. So I'm just going to use the same paint marker and kind of follow the outline from the underside. So now that that's done, we need a back piece, like this one, that actually Mama Requin helped me with. So I'm going to put these together with the fluffy sides touching, and I don't know if it matters, but I'm putting these so that the yarn is laying the same way. Now, this is the part that I'm least sure about working. I'm going to use more of this same thread stuff. It's for the finest crochet knitting, it says. But I already had it, and it's the same color, so this is what I'm going to use. Now, my plan is to just sort of go around the circle and stitch this together. I am absolutely positive that there are better ways to do this, with products that I don't have and have never used. But when have I ever done a project the best way? We're all about making it work around here. So I just slapped these two circles together and set to stitching a vague seam around this outside pink line. I don't even know that I was using any sort of specific stitch because it was wide open mesh, so my goal was just to make sure that it stuck together. After a little ways though, I realized that when I flipped this, it was going to be pretty tight, and I actually wanted a bit more allowance around the outside of the circle. So I ripped the whole thing out and started over, going a couple of circles past the outline. I also found a larger needle that was way easier to use. Now, if you were paying super close attention, or you just notice things better than I do, you may have realized a problem that I didn't. Remember when I was cutting the canvas, I made it about 3 squares bigger than the design? And now I'm putting my seam a couple of squares past the design. So my seam is going to be right on the edge of the canvas in some spots. That's definitely going to be a problem here in a little bit. But first, I got about 3/4 of the way around and stopped, so that I would have a hole to turn this thing right side out. Then I trimmed off the excess canvas. Now, to turn this right side out, I sort of just grabbed as much of it in my hand as I could and pulled it through. Then I went around and pushed out every little part of the curve. Now that it's flipped and there's some tension on the canvas, I can see where my seams are sort of wanting to come apart because they're so close to the edge. So I went back around one more time, whip stitching it to make sure that it was really secure. This probably seems like a lot of extra work, and it probably was, but it only took about 10 minutes to go back over the whole thing, so I'm not really bothered by it. I mean, see how much better that's looking? Next, I need to stuff this pillow, and I'm going to use this polyester fiberfill that I already had in my craft room. And I really crammed this stuff in. This is going to be a very poofy lemon. Now for my trusty multi-use binder clips. I'm going to fold these seams in and then clip the canvas to hold it in place while I whip stitch it closed. After it's all sewn, it kind of looks like butt. But this isn't a tutorial. This is an experiment. The last thing that I need to do, obviously, is to go around and fill up these edges. This is definitely going to hide that wobbly seam. I'm also using the yarn to reinforce any areas where to reinforce any areas where the seams appear that they might come apart. And I'm definitely not going to have any blank spots because I am not going to run out of yarn this time. And I didn't film the whole process because I took this with me to work on the go. So here's my pink lemon pillow. It's a little lopsided depending on which way you look at it because of the way that the yarn is laying, but you can't really see the weird seams anymore, except maybe a little at the bottom. But I love it. It's so cute. It doesn't feel stiff at all. It's nice and squishy. And my dog Penny has tried to steal it about 45 times, so it must be nice and fluffy. Here both pillows are. Look how cute they look together. I'm so happy with them. What do you think? Do you have any ideas what I can make with pounds of leftover pink Latchhook yarn? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.